Welcome to Whispering Loudly, the award-winning Workshop Whisperer podcast, as featured by Apple, with Rachel Evans, the #1 automotive business coach in the aftermarket. Thanks to Platinum sponsor Podium, Titanium sponsor Mechanic Desk, and Diamond sponsor Ventavid.
Craig Deakin is the owner of Sabtool, a Queensland-based workshop equipment supplier supplying all parts of Australia. He's an ex-mechanic who has walked in your shoes and is passionate about helping all workshop owners succeed. Sabtool is also one of the largest independent additives, oil and consumable workshop providers servicing parts of Queensland. Hello, Craig. Welcome to Whispering Loudly.
Thanks for joining us today on Whispering Loudly. Let's jump straight in because there's lots that I'd like to ask you and get your opinion on. Like me, you visit many workshops around Australia and you speak with lots of people in the auto aftermarket. Can I have your perspective on what you believe the issues facing independent auto repair shops and if they've changed over the past 5 years?
That's a great question. They have changed, and the reality is the entire world has. Every industry's got huge disruption with technology and automation. The entire car manufacturing industry in Australia is now gone. We've got Uber with taxis, newsagents, so on. They're all affected. And to be honest, if we bury our heads in the sand and pretend it's not going to happen to us in the automotive industry, we're going to be in real trouble. How that affects us on scale and how quickly, there's been a few studies done, but no one really knows. But I think it's definitely started.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think that's a key point, isn't it? That if we think our industry won't be disrupted, then we're really not aware of what's going on in the world at the moment. It's happened to all other industries. I think it's foolish of us if we believe that we won't be.
Take a smoko and review us on your Apple podcast app or wherever you listen.
Tell me, Craig, you've obviously recognised that disruption is happening. What's the greatest change that you think you've seen in the last few years?
Look, it'd have to be that same thing, technology and automation. The cars are becoming more and more advanced. The equipment and the education that's needed to actually keep up with that keeps growing. And probably, again, related around technology, the AAA is doing a great job trying to get the information out of the manufacturers. But if we don't get that up-to-date information with what's going on with technology in cars, we're in deep trouble in 2 to 5 years' time when these vehicles come outside of warranty.
Absolutely. So what do you consider to be the biggest enemy of the independent auto repair shop at the moment?
There's probably a few things there. I mean, I touched on freedom of repair there before, but in all honesty, probably the biggest thing are some of the real simple fundamentals. And sorry if I get a little bit passionate about this, but I'm all about making sure the entire industry succeeds as a whole. So to begin with, as silly as it sounds, collectively we can be our own worst enemy. So I want to just say from the outset, this doesn't apply to all workshops because there's a lot doing great things in this space, but we are business owners. I was fortunate enough to do a business management traineeship before I did my apprenticeship. Now, unless something's changed, when I went to TAFE, there were no modules on how to run a shop because there weren't any. I've spent a heap of time learning about business since, and just like mechanical, it's always changing. So guys and girls out there, you need to get educated.
100%.
The other thing, if I can just really stand on a soapbox for a second, guys and girls, labour rates need to go up. We're not just mechanics anymore. We're auto sparkies, we're diagnosticians, we're constantly investing time and money in equipment and tools and the training. Why aren't we charging what we're worth? It really does get up my nose a little bit when we've got workshops out there. I realise you feel like there's market pressures and you've got to be a little bit cheaper than the bloke next door, but if collectively we can actually push our pricing to what we should be paid, guess what? We can then actually start attracting great talent because I know that's a big problem in our industry. Prices up, you get paid what you're worth. You can then expect to survive with all this technology coming. And then at least when you do get a good technician, you can actually keep them because you can pay them the right amount of money, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I definitely agree with both of those points. No, as far as I'm aware, there still isn't business training involved in the apprentice training. So there's still no modules.
That's where you come in.
That's right. But it would be so much easier for so many of the guys that choose to go into business to help them start out the right way if there was even the most basic of training in financials, of the amount of startup capital that you should look to have before you go into business, just the basics. If the TAFE systems and the private certifiers in Australia and New Zealand could just add those modules, we would see far fewer workshop owners in distress. People might think, oh, it's great for myself, being a business coach, that there's so many people to help. However, sometimes they're in such a state that they're beyond the place of where I can help them. And education to begin with around, how to set up the business properly to start with would be so helpful. Just your point on labour. I think I've been banging on about this non-stop for the last 5.5 years. Our businesses would have so much more cash flowing through them if we simply charged out what we're worth and that we weren't afraid to charge that. So wholeheartedly agree with both of those points.
Want to find out how the Workshop Whisperer team can put your auto repair shop on the path to business success? Head to www.workshopwhisperer.com/whispering loudly to claim your free workshop success session with the team.
I just wanted to move back to the technology side of things, maybe even taking scan tools as an example. The technology in those scan tools, how can we embrace that in order to have a better business?
Scan tools, probably one of the biggest things that I come across is we'll get contacted by a workshop owner that wants one scan tool that's going to do everything. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say there's not a single scan tool on the market that will do everything. So what you will find is you'll generally need more than one to complement and handle every function for every car in the car park. We actually have multiple brands that we sell to do that, to hold hands with one another. We've got Autel, Carman and Jaltest. The biggest concern that I see out there is you've got these guys that think they need to have all of them right there, right now. You can, and we regularly suggest to workshops that you should, and make friends with your neighbour so you can actually share that expense. You buy an Autel, your next door neighbour buys a Carman or a G-Scan or whatever it might be, so that you're actually covering the car park without that expense. Of course, as you get bigger and you don't want to outsource that, keep that all in-house. A perfectly normal progression.
Do you think that level of collaboration exists amongst the majority of auto repair shop owners at the moment?
The majority, unfortunately, no. There's definitely a minority that are in that space, and they realise that there is enough work to go around, and if they work together collaboratively, they're actually going to get a lot more done and going to be a lot more profitable too as a result. But there's definitely an us and them mentality in the greater trade, unfortunately. But it is changing slowly as Facebook brings people together and groups like yours and others around. So they are talking more, which is a great thing.
It is a shame that, the majority of workshop owners don't feel safe, I guess, sharing business practice and even other tools. Definitely one of the biggest benefits that I've seen inside my own client Facebook groups is that best practice sharing mentality. As you've pointed out, there is enough work for everyone. And if we did practice a little more collaboration, we would all be better off. Tapping into areas of expertise where somebody's invested in a different type of capital equipment to you, certainly huge benefits in that.
Absolutely.
One final question for you, Craig. How can our listeners get in touch with you to start using some of your equipment?
You can contact us by email on sales@sabtool.com.au. That's S for Sam, A for Apple, B for Bravo, tool, or the office phone on 07 5437 9969, or our web store, which is sabtoolstore.com.au.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on Whispering Loudly, the Workshop Whisperer podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for offering your insights into the automotive aftermarket and some of the issues that are facing auto repair shop owners. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks again for having me, and thanks for starting this great initiative.
Okay, so that is our episode of Whispering Loudly for today. We'd love it if you have any questions based on our interview just now with Craig, or you have a general question about how to improve something in your auto repair business, that you send us an email to admin@workshopwhisperer.com. Hope you have a wonderful week in your auto repair business. Keep those average repair orders nice and high, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Whispering Loudly, the award-winning Workshop Whisperer podcast, as featured by Apple with Rachel Evans, the #1 automotive business coach in the aftermarket. Thanks to Platinum sponsor Podium, Titanium sponsor Mechanic Desk, and Diamond sponsor Ventavid.